Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am Engineer Kate, and joining me this week is Brandon.
Hello.
And Kestrel.
Hey.
And Cain.
Hello.
And DJ didn't realize we were recording tonight and is not here. But he might come with words later, in some form or fashion. I'm not quite sure. He was vague.
Words, punchline.
Hey, we just need the highlights, really.
Yeah.
Or the lowlights. I like those too.
Write lots of words, so we might end up with his thoughts on the new season. We might end up with a sneak peek at his game.
We never know. He's a mystery. Wrapped in enigma. This week we are talking about the mid-season of this winter 2023 anime season, and I have been gone for a hot minute from this podcast, so it'll be fun to hear what you guys are talking about, because I only vaguely listened to the last podcast I edited. So,
are you watching anything?
I am watching things because I have to. I'm reviewing 2 shows, so that's what I'm watching.
Nice.
There's another show that I should be watching that I haven't even started yet, but we'll get to that eventually.
Buddy Daddies.
Nope. And but first we probably have news. Do we have news? Probably have news.
Yeah, it's been a while.
There's always news.
Cain, you're not even watching Buddy Daddies.
No, but I like the name a lot. That was how I was gonna lead into it later. I was gonna be like, I just want to hear about Buddy Daddies because I think it's one of my favorite anime names of the past few years.
Yeah. Anyway, news. So back at the end of last month, Discotech did one of their live streams. They announced a ton of shit, as always. Not a ton that I was super interested in, which is kind of often the case, but still plenty of things to get all the disco bros excited. And probably biggest highlights were Cutie Honey, which is the Gainax Cutie Honey OVA directed by Hideaki Anno. I think his last work at Gainax, it was kind of a tie-in to the live-action Cutie Honey movie he did, and one of the 3 episodes was also co-directed by Hiroyuki Imaishi in one of his first works. So that's significant for that reason. They also got Nanoha Reflection. I don't know if they have any of the rest of Nanoha, but they got that at least. They got the Aim for the Ace movie, and a bunch of other stuff. I don't know if there's anything else in that spoke to anyone else.
They were releasing Calamity Jane, I think, and I was excited about that. That's one of those like weird French Canadian whatever cartoon. You know, one of those weird like international cartoons that they always aired on like Fox at like weird times in the morning.
I had never heard of that show. If they had just made that up for that live stream, I would have believed it.
You were probably young when that show was on the air.
Yeah, let's see.
That was one of those like late 90s, early 2000 joints, I think. I'd have to look up the exact date. I watched a lot of cartoons back in the day. Yeah, late 90s, so I was right. So, yeah.
I was 5. Probably wasn't watching Fox yet.
That was in that block of a bunch of like cartoons that no one, probably heard of. Except me, because I watched fucking every cartoon that was on the air practically.
I was on Kids WB.
Oh yeah, okay. So it wasn't Fox, but
although my Fox station also did WB, I don't know. It was weird. Anyway.
Yeah, TV was like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that. More recent news from a few weeks ago now. There was a new Licorice Recoil anime announced. I don't think we have any details, just there will be more anime of that, which we kind of figured there would be because it was very successful.
Yeah, I remember watching the little like preview thinking there'd be something new, and it was just like a clip, like compilation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought there'd be something there because I recall us talking about, at least maybe in text or something, like where, I don't know, the show could go because it felt like it was done, but whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think we mentioned that the last maybe our review for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That with the whole escape to Hawaii or whatever they did, or the Hawaii adjacent island. That it felt like there wasn't a whole lot to do, but I mean, I'm always down for more, so this is fine.
I love Hawaii adjacent island.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Hopefully it's not like successful original anime that gets sequels that they have no business having sequels and they suck, which often happens, but I don't know. Be optimistic. Another anime announcement, confirmation, kind of. So I hope everyone's been watching Monster on Netflix now that that's finally out. The timing might have seemed random at the time, but it seems like it might be related to this other Netflix anime announcement, which is that the Pluto anime that we saw like leaked in some little thing 6 years ago and then never heard a thing about is coming. It's coming this year. It's coming to Netflix. They put out a 4-minute teaser for it, showing off the animation, and it looks great. They announced the main cast, even though they don't have any dialogue in the trailer. And yeah, I think that's about what we know about it. For those who don't know, Pluto is an adaptation of an arc of Astro Boy, written and illustrated by Naoki Urasawa, who did Monster and 20th Century Boys. And yeah, as you would expect from him, it is very deep and dark and good. So
it's very good.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I talked to Kes just in DMs about this when it got announced, but I haven't read Monster or 20th Century Boys yet, but Pluto's easily like top 5, top 10 manga for me, so this has been like one of the highly anticipated shows I've had since I like started watching simulcast seasons because it's just been like rumored for so long. So I'm glad we finally got to see something.
Yeah, and I should mention, this was announced, quote announced, leak, whatever, back when it was first dropped. But it will be by M2, which is the, I guess not that new anymore, but new studio that Masao Maruyama created. He was the founder of Madhouse and MAPPA. And it sounds like he basically founded this studio for this project. And they've maybe been working on it for most of the past 6 years to make it perfect.
Damn.
Which is kind of exactly how MAPPA actually started. Maruyama left Madhouse to form MAPPA to produce In This Corner of the World, and that took about 6 years before it finally came out. So that's just what he does.
Damn. Do you think M2 is just like his name, or like Madhouse 2 or MAPPA 2?
I don't know why it's not M3, because it's his third studio he founded. They all start with M. Yeah, I've always wondered that. But the M in MAPPA, which is an acronym, literally stands for Maruyama. So yeah, it's definitely a reference to his name. Yeah,
makes sense.
Maybe since he only co-founded Madhouse with a few other people, even though he ran it for decades, he felt like this was like his second personal studio. I don't know, but it looks great.
Yeah,
and yeah, he produced like all the other Urasawa adaptations at Madhouse, of course. Yeah, and I was, saying to Brand that I just recently finished the manga, actually, so it's kind of timely for me. And it's like, I don't know, top 40 for me, where Monster and 20th Century Boys are like top 5 of all time. So yeah, you need to get on that.
Yeah, no. Hello.
Another anime announcement. Another manga that I started reading recently, actually, although the original is a light novel series. It is the Apothecary Diaries. So it started as a novel series, got a manga adaptation that's been released by Square Enix Manga. I've read the first couple volumes, and the next however many are out in the US just shipped, so I'll be reading those soon. It's very good so far. It'll be a TV anime. It'll be coming this year. It'll be by the studio OLM. The director, I think their only notable credit was the first season of the Ancient Magus Bride. What I found most interesting about or most exciting about the staff list was the composers. It's got music by Kevin Penkin, who's known for Made in Abyss, Satoru Kosaki, who did the Haruhi series, the Monogatari series, Vivi, bunch of other huge hits like that, and also like wrote and composed all the theme songs to all of them. And Arisa Okehazama, who is one of the 3 composers of Jujutsu Kaisen. So yeah, pretty stacked musical lineup there. Have you read this in any form, Kate? This seems like your kind of thing.
No. Yeah, I'm way behind on books in general, so I am a discredit to my name and side profession, so and have been horribly I can't even describe how bad my backlog situation is right now. I looked at my shelves this morning and I just kind of my eyes glazed over, and it's just an insurmountable feat now at this point. So
how large of a fort could you build out of them?
Oh, a very sizable castle for my cat.
I thought you were going to say like a 2-story walk up with an add-on bath.
Basically.
How often do you end up in the situation that Cheska from Fullmetal Alchemist ended up in, where you're just collapsed or under a pile of collapsed books?
It has not reached that point yet because most of them are in shorter piles on the floor. Everything else is packed up, but yeah, I mean, there were moments where I was, concerned. But yeah, it's more like I just at some point I was like, this situation's out of control, so I haven't ordered any manga in like a year, which is not good in this current market climate because shit goes out of print so fast. But yeah. And I just need to right now I just need to finish buying some series, so at least I have the entire series on the shelf that I will eventually someday maybe read, but I have this problem where I'm behind on review material, so in my brain that takes, precedence, and then I just never end up reading my backlog. So, yeah.
Well, if you ever get around to it, in novel, manga, or anime form, I think you would dig the Apothecary Diaries.
I probably would, and you're probably right about that. But, yeah, we'll see. Maybe in the next time I order a thing.
Maybe in the next life.
No, don't say that.
Isekai me to a world where I can read all the manga I want.
I mean, that's definitely already a thing, right? The Librarian Isekai. Probably 2 or 3 others, Bookworm, whatever.
Yeah.
Literally any, just throw ChatGPT on it or whatever. Any premise you could come up with, there are 2 or 3 isekais with that premise already.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Last piece of news here. Big, sad news that everyone's been talking about for the past few days. Leiji Matsumoto passed away at age 85. He was, one of the most iconic manga and anime creators of the past half century. Known for Space Battleship Yamato, Space Pirate Captain Harlock, Galaxy Express 39, all the great early, mid, late 70s space operas that influenced the next generations from, Gundam through all of the later space operas and mecha series. And yeah, his style is so distinctive that people associate Interstellar 4-5 with him so much, but he barely had anything to do with it. It's just there's such a distinct Matsumoto style that you can just pull his characters and everyone will be like, oh yeah, that's Matsumoto did every part of this and it's from the 70s, even though it was from the 2000s.
That's insane. I literally figured he was just lead designer or something on that.
Yeah. They were like, hey, can we use your characters basically? And you can look it over. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. But everyone's like, the creator of Interstellar, everyone everyone knows him for Interstellar, but yeah, it's all those other things that he, actually put in the work for 30 plus years earlier, and then it just lives on so much because it's so distinctive.
This feels like I need to do a deep dive. I feel like I've only caught like episodes here and there of like Galaxy Express and Harlock, so
Mhm.
definitely need to do just like a big watch through of at least one of them soon.
Wayfish women and squat little gremlin children.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why you can just put them in anything and everyone will recognize them because they're the same
Yeah.
designs every time. And I mean, really, he was, well, I guess Kazuka did this first, but
Yeah.
he had a lot of the shared universe concepts that everyone and their mother needs to jump into now.
They were doing shared universes before it was a thing, before it was cool.
Well, Marvel and DC were still doing it before them, but yeah. Wasn't the big hotness in all other media as it was in comics.
Queen Emeraldus needs more love. Just
Yep.
I have those books.
She fucking kicks ass. But she doesn't get talked about quite as often. She's in that same universe, obviously, and had her own books and things like that. That's actually one of the first things I read. The story's good and stands enough on its own, but it really does help to kind of know what else is going on and who the other characters are. But it also helps, and the reason that I picked it was it's 4 volumes. So I was like, I can read this in like a day. And yeah, it's like I thought it was a really good like sampler platter of Leiji Matsumoto. Like you read it, and if you like it, great, you can move on to everything else. And if you don't like it, well, you only had to read 4 volumes of manga, and that was it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to invest your time into like a long story or anything that only gets good like 60 volumes in or some shit like that. It's a really good kind of like, if you like it, there's tons more, and if you don't, well, you didn't really lose a whole lot of time. Plus, they got some really nice, I think, like hardcover volumes.
Yeah, which is
a while ago by now, I think, but you could probably still find them.
They're probably still out there. Those are the volumes I have.
Yeah, that's actually going back to Pluto for a second. That's kind of similar to Pluto for Urasawa because it's like 7 volumes, whereas all of his other works are like 20. So yeah, it's nice to have the really good but much shorter little samplers from these creators.
Honestly, probably why I got Pluto first.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, some of the deciding factors on manga that I buy or read is how much shelf space is this going to have to take up if I enjoy it.
Oh, totally.
So Queen Emeraldus is really good at that because it's 4.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like anime, you can have as much as you want and package it as neatly as possible, but with physical manga, those pages are going to take up space no matter how thin they are. So
yeah, there's nothing
20
you can
volumes
do.
of any. Yeah.
I love me some 20 volumes of things.
Yeah.
A little too much.
They take up a lot of space.
I do.
Right. Anything else on Leiji Matsumoto? Any of these news stories?
No, rest in peace, Leiji Matsumoto.
Yep.
Thank you for the Wayfish woman. Wayfish space woman. Mysterious Wayfish space woman.
A nice DJ sent exclusively comments about things that nobody else is watching. At least I'm not watching.
Yeah. Kane's watching Kaina, and I'm watching Fire Hunter, but
okay, cool. All right, just nothing I'm watching. So yeah, anyway, we've got DJ's stuff. We got all of our shows. What do we want to talk about?
Yeah, where do we start, guys?
Well, reading over his stuff about Kaina, I basically agree in its entirety. In that it's a really cool story. It's a really interesting world. In case none of you folks know exactly what it is, it's basically about a story about a guy who lives in these like trees that have sprouted from the planet and made their own ecosystem in the atmosphere, and then the people that live down below in like a frozen wasteland. And essentially one day, like a princess from that snow like covered wasteland gets up into the trees and into the atmosphere from like this blimp like bug creature thing, and then they have to get back down, climbing down the trees, and get her back to her kingdom that's about to go to war with another kingdom over water and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting story and a really cool setting, but yeah, it's hard to get over the 3D CGI of it. Granted, so far it hasn't been enough for me to not want to watch it because the story and characters are strong and it does have a slow pace, so you do have to like that. But yeah, the CGI is not good, and I mean it's anime CGI for the most part, like stereotypical anime CGI. So take that for what it is. So that's really all there is to say about Kaina for the most part. If it just wasn't CGI, I think a shitload more people would be watching it, and it would be way more popular and cool because it's just a really like fun original idea that I think has a lot of, it's got legs. Like it could go a lot of different places, and the whole idea of these world trees and water scarcity and everything is really interesting, but it's just the CGI is bad.
You want to?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that show conceptually caught my eye and stuff, but Polygon Pictures is very inconsistent. So yeah, I was definitely weary about getting in it.
On the contrary, I believe Polygon Pictures is very consistently awful.
Damn, shots fired.
I think all of their stuff looks the same. And it looks like shit.
Yeah,
It definitely
Fair.
is not pretty.
Maybe don't name your company Polygon Pictures.
This show and Trigun Stampede, which I did drop, finally sort of crystallized the one thing I always try to reach for when talking about it that I really don't like the most about CGI, and both those shows in various ways kind of crystallized it, especially Trigun Stampede for the most part. But yeah, I want to say for people who don't mind CGI or just like a good story and can get over the aesthetics, it's really worth a watch. There's a lot of cool concepts and characters. One of my favorite bits is the only connection they have to what our modern society is. So like, 2022, etc., is road signs and construction signs made out of steel that have survived, and then they read them and try to interpret them.
That sounds like fun.
It is cool. It's a really cool idea. So that's like, we don't know much about the previous people who used to live on Earth before it turned into this, giant snow ocean. But we do have these signs, and the signs are a bunch of different things. There's like stop sign, wear your hard hat, watch out for falling objects. So stuff that doesn't really have a whole lot of context, and then they try to interpret it like we do old things that we don't have really any context for. So it takes a really good concept and unfortunately just makes it fucking ugly.
I think it would be a good transition because I do want to say that I will be the sole Trigun Stampede defender if I have to be, because I think it's pretty good.
Can we just read DJ's actual thoughts on Kaina first before we move away from that?
Yeah, for sure.
Have his words out there. I know that Cain kind of covered a lot of it, but yeah, Cain, you want to just read what he said since you are the only one who watched it?
Yeah, so, and I quote, "Man, I really wish this wasn't a CG anime. Kaina has an interesting story and a remarkable world, but it's just so consistently bogged down by the way it looks. I don't mind how slow it is, and I think that sort of style works well for this type of adventure. I just hate looking at it. Also, very happy to finally hear, I'm going to go with Yorushka? I don't know. Doing an OP theme for anime. Been a big fan of theirs for years, and I was beginning to think they never show up. The theme is good too, so I agree on that one. It's like a nice little acoustic song at first and gets a little peppy later on.
That is a pretty good summation of Polygon, because it's like, I think Ajin is a really cool story, but it just looks awful.
It's like they have really good writers, and then the art department is just shitty trash.
Yeah. Well, more like they choose good source material, and none of the writers are on staff. So.
But
yeah, go ahead and stand Trigun.
Yeah,
Trigun Stan-pede.
Stan-pede, haha.
I like that. So I don't know. I think I think the longer it's went on, the more I'm enjoying it. I thought the first like 2, maybe 3 episodes were like all right. I wasn't super on board with uh like Vash and his personality, and he's still not my favorite aspect of the show. But I think just the longer it's went on, the I think Orange is just flexing how like standout they are in terms of CG anime compared to any other studio because the I don't know, the effects have been so amazing and uh they even started to do a little bit in the last 2 or 3 episodes. They did a little bit of a mix of like flashbacks with more traditional animation, and I think that hit really well. And just like the overall sound design and the score and the voice acting, of course, is popping off as well. But I don't know. I can understand the like just like CG being a Achilles heel for a lot of people, but I don't know if I feel like if that is the only crutch of why you can't enjoy the show, then I don't know. Then I guess it will be hard to swallow. But I still think Stampede is like worthy as its own adaptation, doing its own thing, and I think it's proven to be like a really well made production so far. So I've been enjoying it a lot, actually. Uh,
Wait, I have
yeah,
a question for you.
yeah.
Did you watch the original series or read the manga?
I didn't read the manga, and I did watch the original, but and I could see also like why people would be mad that like oh like Millie isn't there or like this or that or like they're doing things different. But I think the show has a liberty to do things different because the original also did things different from the manga. So I don't know. I'm not trying to like uh hold it to any kind of expectation, I guess. But yeah.
This is that's the third show that I need to get watching, and I just haven't yet. I was waiting for the dub to get released, which I believe it is released now. I just have to buckle down and like watch some of it.
Yeah, I think it's probably only a couple of weeks behind Japanese.
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree with you about that. It is like definitely the best CGI that I've seen. Especially I think the movements when when Vash, yeah, the Trigun, the American Psycho,
Mr. Trigun.
yeah, with Mr. Trigun, when he's like running around and his arms are flailing all over the place and stuff. I think that looks, uh, pretty good, like chaotic energy and smooth. It doesn't look very janky at all. The thing I was alluding to earlier is I don't like, and I think it was the second episode with the Nebraska family.
Mhm.
The CGI right now can't make faces like textured or ugly enough.
Mm.
Like Govsef and Father Nebraska are like these gnarled, bumpy, characters filled with like holes and cuts and scars and bruises and all sorts of things that really make them stand out as characters and really make them look like, space criminal murderers that have seen a lot of shit. And in Trigun Stampede, Govsef just looks like a pile of mashed potatoes, and Father Nebraska like a dreadlocked version of Doc Brown.
Yeah, he looks like a Tekken 3 character.
Yeah, like they don't have the same attitude, and it's probably because maybe like CGI is just hard to get all of that stuff because then you have to worry about animating it and how it works, and it's just easier to make a smooth face and just put like one or two aesthetic scars that can just be static straight lines. But that was the thing I noticed the most. So yeah, like I do believe it has the strongest CGI, and I did like especially Vash's character model movements and things like that. I thought that was really good. I also don't particularly like this Vash's personality either. I think it's too pacifist run, if that
Yeah,
makes
he's
sense.
a bit of a white knight. He's trying to like really like always, there's not even like a moral gray line. It's just like he always needs to save everyone at every moment, even the people who are currently trying to kill him at every moment.
he also shot people and like kind of fucked them up. He didn't shoot them to kill them in like the original anime, which is what I have seen. I haven't read the manga, but like I remember he like partially defeated Golfsef in the original anime, I think, by shooting his rocket fist like 8 times until it crashed into the ground. And like the first guy that was the Vash like impersonator in the pilot episode of the original show, he like fucks up his arm and shoulder really bad with that like boomerang thing. Like he will hurt people to protect the ones that he cares about, but this Vash seems to be about protecting everybody all of the time.
Yeah, that is a difference too. Is that they made the Nebraskas more sympathetic characters in Stampede, which it wasn't my cup of tea either. I also agree that like certain character models don't look as good as they could. I agree that Govsef looks a bit wonky, but on
His face is just so smooth.
yeah, it doesn't have like the mechanical design of like a bunch of the other like very mechanical things in the show too. But I'd say on the contrast, all the very pretty boy looking characters look really good. Like Wolfwood looks really good, and I think Million Knives design is really cool too. But yeah, it's not perfect, but I'm still finding a lot worth engaging it with, so
Yeah, and I guess it's fair to say that also the show isn't afraid to like maim and kill people. As you learn when like Millions Knives is, honest to goodness introduced. It's just Vash is so pacifist, anti-violence that I was concerned that later on in the show, it would become more of like a hindrance, and not in like a morally interesting way. It's just more like storylines and confrontations would get drawn out because Vash just really, really, really doesn't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And I can understand that, but sometimes it's just like, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because, like, I know you've already dropped it, but these later episodes with Wolfwood, that's literally what is happening, where Wolfwood's like, hey man, sometimes you need to kill people or, like, hurt people to do what's right. And Vash is like, or I could try to not. And it's like, okay. And that is kind of annoying, but, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I feel like this adaptation isn't afraid to get dark. There's definitely been moments that feel like they go pretty dark. So, and I feel like the most recent episode had a bit of a cliffhanger. Where like, who knows where Vash is gonna go in, like from here on out. But yeah,
I think I read somewhere too, and I didn't even notice this, but I think it was a Reddit thread about the show. Apparently, Vash's gun is smaller.
Yeah, he like people like pointed out that he customized it so that he was shooting 22s instead of the normal like whatever caliber it would be. So like,
yeah, like the barrel is partially like plugged.
Yeah, very interesting.
So there was some theories about whether that would be then recustomized maybe later.
Ooh, I can believe that. I hope so. It's not the most cool looking gun. It's like
not anymore, no.
It's like fat, thick, but yeah. I think part of it is the joke he made in like the first or second episode where he's like, "Hey, bullets aren't cheap." So it's like, well, I guess he used the smallest caliber rounds he can, save money, but like I don't know if that's really an issue for him.
Yeah, especially because does he have any money ever?
No, I don't. They really haven't made that a thing. So yeah. But yeah, I've been
thought about
enjoying
picking it back up once the dub starts because I've only ever seen the original show in the dub, and I know the new one is bringing back. I think it's bringing back like Johnny Young Bosch and some of the people who were from the first one, and maybe I'll enjoy more with that because that's where like my core memories of the original are.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe with good performances by them, I'll enjoy it a little bit more because that's just how I remember the show. I've never seen the originals like Japanese dubbing at all, so I have no idea what that sounds like.
Yeah. Hey, whatever gets you into it, I don't mind.
Yeah, everyone was recast in Japanese. Everyone was recast in English except Vash, and recast because everyone was already recast in English for the movie except Vash, and this is a third voice actor for each of them.
Well, the original show was so effing long ago now, which
Yeah.
makes me feel old. But yeah, it was like,
It was 25 years ago.
yeah.
Like-
I didn't realize how long ago that was until I looked to see who was actually doing the voices in the original English, production. And I'm like, oh, are any of these people besides like Johnny Young Bosch actually still voice acting?
Oh yeah, Dorothy is still active.
Dorothy is, yeah. But
Mhm.
like, I was like, oh, I'm like, and then I was kind of sad when I realized she wasn't, in the show. But everybody else, I'm like, oh, haven't seen these people around in years.
Yeah, it looks like the first 4 episodes are dubbed, so it looks like they're 3 weeks behind the Japanese.
Time for me to hop in.
All right, I think that's good enough on Trigun. What do we want to do now?
What we have Cain for, right?
True.
Well, we could keep going with DJ shows because Kestrel dictated who's going to be reading his thought patterns. And I don't even know, and I'm curious to know what the Fire Hunter is because I cannot say I've even heard of it. Even if I did, I must have just like read the 2-sentence blurb when I was trying to decide what to watch and then completely forgot it existed. But the title is intriguing.
Yeah. So, The Fire Hunter is a really interesting show. Just because like production wise, it's pretty unique for like modern anime because it's like a bunch of old head anime veterans that are like gathering together to like adapt their favorite novel. And so it has a very like old feel to it. Kind of like animation wise and aesthetically reminds I've seen a lot of people say this too. Reminds a lot of people of Shinsekai Yori in like very thin lines and like strange animation like character movement. And also it's very like lore heavy and like lots of like world building. But it is very there are a lot of issues with it. So I'll start with what DJ said, which is just uh kind of funny. So DJ says, "Please, please get better. I know you can do it. You've come so close to being something special so many times, but you just keep dropping the ball. I want to root for you, but you're making it very hard." No, that doesn't say anything about the show, but I understand what DJ's saying. Because there are a lot of strong elements. Like I think the story is very interesting, and like I can see why these old dudes came together for this passion project. But I think a lot of their old techniques and maybe old production patterns have been a big detriment to the show because animation has been very inconsistent and wonky, and they like to do that thing where I don't know what you call it, but it's like a freeze frame where it kind
Yeah,
of
I know
looks like a painted still.
Yeah.
And they use that a lot in like lots of retro anime, but usually it would be like they use it for like the cliffhanger or like before the halfway insert. But like they're doing it like mid action scene or like mid dialogue to do just like a close up of a character or a creature. And it just like breaks it up and like really takes you out of it while you're watching. So it's just right from the jump, it was maybe episode 2 because I thought episode 1 like looked really unique and cool, and right away in episode 2, it already felt like very shaky, and so it feels like the production is already on stilts from the get go. So like that was very worrying from the beginning. But I mean, it is a really cool story. I guess the gist of it is this is a world where I haven't watched it in a few weeks, so I'm gonna try to think about what it is. Basically, there was some kind of event that happened where uh fire uh like no like fire can no longer be like man-made because something happened with humanity where when humans would see fire, they would just instantly combust themselves, and like civilization basically collapsed because everyone just like started like bursting into flames. And they get to this point later in society where there are people called fire hunters that hunt the creatures of the world that kind of uh, instill this fire curse upon humanity. So in a way, it kind of reminds me of like Princess Mononoke, where it's like a nature revenge kind of thing, and humanity trying to like find their way in it by industrializing and fighting it off. Um, and it feels like there's some really cool plot threads going here because it's following two different characters at the same time, and they're like eventually going to convene, and the plot's going to like come to a head with all this like conspiracy and stuff going on. But the journey there has just been so all over the place and paced weird and animated weird that I definitely feel the sentiment that DJ is where it's like, oh, this show could be like a hidden gem, like a very special thing, but it feels like it it can't really it might not make it to the finish line. And it's rough watching it sometimes, but I'm holding out hope for it. But yeah, it's definitely the show I'm the most inconsistently enjoying or not each week.
By the way, those freeze frames are called postcard memories. That's the trademark of Osamu Dezaki.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I was like, there's got to be a name for it because it was like a staple thing. But
Yeah, it was.
yeah,
He did it in all of his work, and then yeah, people have been kind of paying tribute to it ever since.
yeah. I think the other notable thing from the production that I remember is that Mamoru Oshii is working on the script. I
Mhm.
think.
Oh
But,
wow.
yeah, which that was like one of the big draws for me. Was that like okay, Oshi's in on this, and a bunch of his like old animator friends. It's like okay, this could be something special, but yeah, it's struggling for sure. Um, Worth a watch maybe for like the first episode just to see if it even interests you. But yeah, it's been tough.
It's like a turning into a season of really cool concepts poorly executed.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a shame. I remember
Yeah.
seeing the previews for that and thinking, huh. At one point, this was my jam.
Yeah, there's some nostalgia when I'm watching it. Like it definitely feels like I'm tapping into like my early anime viewing life, but yeah, it's kind of rose-colored goggles at this point. But yeah, I think that's enough about Fire Hunter.
Cool. Well, then we can then move on to uh, Surune, I believe, which Kestrel, I know you're going to read DJ's thoughts. Are you also the only one watching it?
No, I'm not watching it.
Ah, you're just going to read it.
Yeah, I'm not watching any of the things that he posted about. Yeah,
And then we're going to make fun of him.
This is
I
one of the
should be
only.
I should be watching this because I watched the first season, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say this is one of the only KyoAni shows that I did not stick with. And yeah, I think it looks like on Crunchyroll I only made it to the first episode of the first season. It must have like started late in the season.
Oh, is this the one with the bow and arrow shit?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'll read his thoughts. He said, KyoAni once again made me flip on a show I wasn't that interested in by just continuing to do what they always do. Tsurune is such a slow burn character drama, and is significantly more niche than something like Free by focusing on Kyudo, but it manages to captivate me by depicting its subject matter with such passion. It also helps that, as is customary from the studio, it looks and sounds amazing.
I like that he mentioned Free because it is like a
Yeah.
pretty boys show, but like
Exactly.
they're dressed very nicely and stuff.
Yeah, those are like their two let's do cute boys instead of cute girls this time shows.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm sure I should have given it more of a shot.
Same.
They've only had like one show that was actually bad. So I'm sure it would pick back up because a few of their shows I dropped and then went back to like After the Fire and really loved. So I don't know why I never went back to Tsurune.
What would you say is the bad Kyoto Annie show?
Fucking Phantom World, whatever the full title is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was pretty cringe.
that's bad. The only thing I haven't seen any of, I think, is their first original property, Moonto, which has like a bunch of different versions of it. But they were all really obscure and niche and not very well received.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm sure this looks great, and I'm sure they do get the character drama and all those aspects a lot stronger as time goes on.
Yeah, maybe
Cool.
this will be like a binge when I have a lull kind of thing.
Mhm.
All right, well, I think we can move on then, since no one else is watching it. Let's see, what else do we have on tap? If we continue down DJ Avenue, we have Kate reading some thoughts on 2 shows, and then I think that basically covers it, except for Nier, which there isn't a ton to say. So, Kate, if you wanted to read DJ's thoughts on those 2 shows, and then we can finish up with Nier, since I'm currently watching it.
Okay, DJ's thoughts on D4 DJ Season 2. Oh wait, those are his things. Sanzigen. Sanzigen?
This is the correct choice. Sans again, but yes, go ahead.
Sanzigen continues to have the entire Bushiroad family on lock with another excellent adaptation of a show that does not deserve to be nearly as good as it is. The new season of D4DJ takes the show's formula and not only runs with it, but remixes it in a way that keeps it fresh and full of life. Bonus points for the psychological fever dream episode where one of the characters spoke in English for the entire thing. Oh, that might be worth just a point of entry right there. That's always a good time. Yeah, I haven't even heard about this show, so I have no point of context for anything I just read.
I think it's like a CG mobile game idol show.
Oh, it's one of those. Okay.
If I remember correctly, this was one of the higher ones on DJ's list too. So
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, he didn't rank it this time, but for the first time around, it was his number 6 out of 21.
Oof. Well,
I mean, it is
good
literally
on.
for DJ. It's in the title.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's confusing. All right, DJ's other thoughts. Mo Ipan. Mo.
You're right first.
Mo Ipan.
This was the good choice.
Torture. I can say Near Automata. Once again, the show about a bunch of girls just doing their best consistently manages to make me tear up despite not being anything technically out of the ordinary. Ayase To is way better than anyone gives her credit for. The show feels like they decided to take all the melancholy out of a place further than the universe and replace it with body slams. Those are some words.
Oh, I think DJ may have mentioned this to me at one point when I had him try and summarize it in 5 words or less, and he said, "Girls make Fight Club," I think.
Yeah, something like that.
That's an amazing selling point right there, so
I'm sure it's not.
Oh, you said 10 words or less. He said, some girls start a judo club and fight each other.
no, that's not quite the same thing, but
That does sound interesting enough, though, because I guess you could technically call it a sports show, and I'm generally into those.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what do you say about it? Way better. Oh, that's the voice actress. Melancholy judo. I don't know.
Well, no. They took the melancholy out of this show and replaced it with body slams.
Oh, okay. So, well, all right. I could fuck with that a little bit more.
I mean, they should really do that with more shows, right? The body slam of Haruhi Suzumiya.
Yeah, and take all melancholy out, and then anytime something sad's about to happen, they just start throwing each other through chairs and tables.
Totally.
Cool. Well, I think if he's the only one that's watching that, we can just move on to Near Automata. I'll read DJ's first because I don't have a ton to say about the show because it does some expansion on the game, but for the most part, you're watching the game. But he says it's back and still good, yet remains a half-emptied shell of a masterpiece. We made it to my favorite section in the game, and even though the wow factor of showing up at the amusement park really just didn't exist in the anime, seeing the songstress again made me very happy, and I still think this show has great potential. So that sums it up as well. DJ and I agree pretty much shot for shot on this as well, in that the show has added some nice little like tidbits, and you could say like behind the scenes of extra lore stuff from the game that the game didn't cover or didn't choose to cover. That gives it a little extra layer, but for the most part, it doesn't really pack the wow factor of the game. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons behind that. It's not just the show; it's also the game is much longer. So like in DJ's thing with the amusement park, that's a good amount into the game. So you really kind of have already invested into the universe and the characters that are in it at that point. So when you get to this amusement park out of nowhere and really kind of see how like odd this world is, it has a lot more of like an emotional impact on you. And it's missing some of the music that I like in some of the songs. It doesn't have.
I was gonna ask him, like, does it have the amusement park music though?
It's got some. It doesn't have the whole, it doesn't have all of the soundtrack to work with, and it doesn't, at least in the I haven't seen the newest episode. I was trying to watch that today, and I watched some other stuff instead to try and catch up. But it's got what's the best way to put it? Like the B-side tracks and music that feels like it was left kind of on the cutting room floor from the original soundtrack. So it's still good because it's by the same people, but the songs that were in the game to accompany some of the higher emotional moments are not in the show. It's great value versions.
Nah.
Damn.
So it's still good, and the music is still pretty good as well, and has the same attitude and themes, composition, and things like that. But it's just not those songs. So especially if you played the game, it doesn't feel quite as good. Now, if you never played the game and you're just watching this because you'd rather watch it than invest the, I don't know, fucking 30, 40 hours it took to beat the game, then your opinion is probably different, since you just haven't had the original experience. But yeah, I think it's animated well. It is cool seeing some of the cutscenes from the game be animated shot for shot, very competently and such. So it's neat to see it in another medium. But yeah, if you play the game, it's not like you're gonna get a brand new experience out of this.
Yeah, I didn't play the game, and I watched the episodes up until it went on hiatus for a month or whatever. And then when it came back, I just didn't bother continuing, because it was already kind of on the line, and since it was off for a month, I didn't feel a great motivation to go back to it. And I talked about it, last time, and it had already gone on hiatus by then, so I don't really have anything new to say. But yeah, as someone who had no experience with the game, I wasn't impressed by at least the first 3 episodes in any way. And, I was kind of curious if doing less of a direct adaptation and just kind of exploring that world in other ways might have served it better for old and new fans alike. But it definitely didn't inspire me to get into it or anything.
I think it would, personally. It would have been better if it would have been, either maybe the story told from a different perspective, or just adventures within that world that expanded upon the lore, something like that. Yeah. I also don't think the pacing of the show is particularly good, because what the show covers in the 3 episodes so far is several hours into the game. So it's a little bit easier to understand what's going on. And even as someone who played the game, when I was watching it, I was like, man, if I didn't play the game, I would be fucking confused at some of this shit that's going on. So, yeah, I think you are correct. I agree that if it just didn't do a almost 100% retelling, it'd probably be better.
Yeah, I watched the first episode and I was not impressed. And I'm a big fan of those games, so yeah, I would say if you kind of like what the show's doing, but the show's just not quite there for you, just go play the game. It
Maybe
hits so
that's the
much
point.
stuff hits so much harder in the game. Like,
Plus, the game has a lot of fun extra deaths and endings.
Ooh, we love that.
oh yeah, there's an ending for every letter of the alphabet. And some of them are just really stupid. Like, there's a part near the beginning of the game where if you walk the wrong fucking direction, the game just ends.
It's the same if you eat fish.
Yeah, there's somebody gives you a fish and they're like, here, eat this fish. And this person's like super sketchy. And if you eat the fish, you're just dead.
Pescatarian ending. Let's go.
Yeah, it's just something like the oil in the fish short-circuited your processor or some shit, and then you get the credits.
You can self-destruct, which is
you also
fun.
get that.
Yeah.
They do adapt some of the silly endings in puppet shows at the end of each episode.
I don't count that shit.
Well, I'm just saying they do acknowledge it.
Yeah, we can move on then. So yeah, just play the game, really.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of into our current list territory. Yo, tell me about Buddy Daddies.
All right. Yeah, you weren't here at the beginning of the season talk, so you didn't hear our initial thoughts. So it's about what you expect it to be. It is and we kind of talked down on it quite a bit at first, because it is it does feel like it's riding on the coattails of the trend that Spy Family kind of blew up, and they're like, hey, we can make a show about a cute little gremlin girl and her crazy assassin parents. And that's basically what it is. It's two bros living together, and they have some mission, and they end up with this girl, and one of the dudes has a traumatic experience related to not having a child, so he's like, I'm gonna keep her. And then chaos ensues. But I was definitely lukewarm on the show for the first couple episodes. Definitely did feel like we were on the mark about the cookie cutter. It's not really doing its own thing, but I do have faith in PA Works. They usually, at least come out all right in the end. And though I'm not caught up on the most recent episode or two, there was an episode in the middle, maybe episode 4, that kind of brought me back into the fold, and I feel like it helped make the show a little bit more unique, in that once they actually started to focus on them trying to be daddies, I was way more invested again.
As opposed to just being buddies.
Yeah, no, as opposed to just being buddies who are pretending to be daddies. So, because the first few episodes, it's they're still trying to do assassin jobs, and she's kind of screwing all that up, and it's aha, funny, little girl getting shot at, but she doesn't care. But eventually, once they accept that they're going to keep this girl, they decide okay, if we're gonna keep working, we need a babysitter or something. And they're like, but how do we do this? And how do we stay being assassins and make money, but watch this kid? Daycare. Okay, that's the answer. And I love the process they went through because they like really dig their heels in and show like how uh long and arduous of a process it is to get like accepted at like a nice daycare and all the hoops you have to jump through to like get prepared for it and all the things she needs to have for it, like all the things she needs to bring every day. And I don't know, the episode where they started taking her to daycare and being daddies was like very charming to me, and I think hit harder than any of the other episodes have. Um, like I said, I haven't continued, and they have been like alluding to like other drama with like another assassin coming in as like an antagonist kind of thing. So I don't know if it's probably going back toward like a more dramatic route again, but that episode specifically kind of saved the show for me because I was definitely on the edge of dropping these buddy daddies, but I want to see more of their daddy antics, so I will continue watching. Yeah, it's all right so far.
Yeah, I think like every 3 or 4 episodes, it kind of gets into more emotional territory.
Mhm.
So most of the time it's just kind of being silly, and it's not nearly as funny as Spy Family. It
No.
doesn't even have that much like action to get excited about yet. There is that antagonist looming on the horizon, so that'll probably change near the end of the series. Um, but occasionally, when it tries to like actually be poignant, is pretty compelling. So like end of episode 3 was like the big turning point there. And then the latest episode, episode 7, was another one where you really start to develop the characters, especially Kazuki, and you start to feel for him, and it also builds on the dynamic of just the three of them and how uh, unbalanced their relationship kind of is. And yeah, I think it definitely has more to say when it's being emotional than anything else, which it's a good niche for it to dig into because that's not really been the focus of like Spy Family. You had hilarious antics and you had like slick action and some exciting intrigue. Um, this isn't nearly as good as any of that, but it is occasionally successfully emotional. And the more we can care about the characters, the more it at least has something going for it. So it's nice to see those pop up every now and then. I'm still certainly not wowed by it by any means, but it's nice to see every few episodes I can like actually care.
Yeah, I think the thing you said about the comedy is pretty on point because I feel like a lot of people I know that went into the show were expecting like a similar level of the comedy, and the difference is that Anya and Miri are two very different characters because
Right,
Anya is just like a meme generator, and Miri is like an actual child
right,
who just like, giggles and screams and running around and like ruins everything. So like I have friends that like went into the show expecting Spy Family, Universe B, but they're like, "Oh no, this is just like a little girl and I hate her."
you're right.
So they like drop the show and it's like understandable. Like the expectations were not met, but yeah, I think like Miri's like a charming character in her own way and like very well acted for sure. Um, and yeah, uh, I do actually really like Kazuki and Rei's performances as well. I feel like Kazuki's voice is very unique. I don't know if I've heard him in a lot of other things, but
uh,
yeah,
oh, Toshiyuki Toyaga, yeah, he's got a great range. He does some like um really high pitched voices and really deep voices and everything in
Mhm.
between. So yeah, he's
Okay.
got a good range.
But yeah, I think you're right that the very emotional and poignant parts are a strong suit for the show, and I think that's something that PA Works have been good at for a while. So
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, and once I caught up, I'll probably have a more full opinion on it. But yeah, it's It's not as good as I feel like a lot of people anticipated, but it's not as cookie cutter as like my initial expectations for it were.
Yeah, we definitely talked about last time how Miri is just a realistic character, and as it turns out, realistic children kind of suck.
I need my children to be meme machines.
I mean, yeah, Anya is a treasure. Like, just Anya, just a supercut of Anya scenes is better than anything that Buddy Daddies will ever do.
Bro.
Well, at least they attempt to go outside.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the box a little bit.
Like a penalty box, maybe?
Oh no, don't do this.
I really want to talk about Blue Lock.
I mean, yeah, we might as well now. You didn't give us any choice.
Piece of
I
shit.
said all I needed to say about Buddy Daddies.
Yeah, we I don't want to award you for for what you said, but I don't have any other choice. So
Alright.
we can talk about Blue Lock for sure.
That's award enough, okay?
Yeah, especially since at least 3 of us are watching it, and it's still super good, which is also very nice. But Brian, what did you want to say about it in particular?
I wanted
Is
to
there something
say,
that's just burning in your chest?
yeah, I just wanted to say that Isagi is a fucking beast. Just like, oh my god, like the whole match when they added Baro to the team, I just gotta say, like, I was like literally yelling because he was just being such a like a cold-blooded killer. And they're like when he called him a donkey, I was like, "Yes! Get his ass." It was so good. I loved every minute of that match. And yeah, this like I already was enjoying the show, but like that was just like I don't know, the show started peaking for me when that stuff started happening. So Isagi definitely shot up my list as favorite character.
Just because he don't take no shit.
Yeah, just because he's like, I'm going to improvise, and by doing that, I'm going to totally destroy this man's whole career.
I'm going to break him down in hopes of rebuilding him, and even if it doesn't rebuild him, I don't give 2 shits anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the other thing too, is that the show continues to like surprise me because I feel like lots of people maybe expected like, oh, once King or Baro's ego shatters, the only way forward is going to be you're going to have to learn to be a teammate, dude. You're going to have to actually pass the ball once. And I love that the solution wasn't that. It was, nah, let's double down. I'm going to devour you right back, son. And it just like was so good. Oh, yeah, this show just continues to be like so refreshing in its approach, and I'm loving every second of it.
Yeah, I like the imagery they used for that, where he was getting ready to Baru was getting ready to fold and just, become a peasant as opposed to a king, so to
Yeah.
speak. And it was all those hands holding him back. And at first you're like, oh, he's going to break free from those hands and become a teammate. And he's like, you know what? No, these hands are right. Fuck all this nonsense. And I didn't even like Baru on the team, but as the match is going on, I'm like, he's way better for story progression than the other guy. Like, in a reality situation, I don't know if I would have picked Baru because he was obviously going to be a hindrance on the
Yeah.
team once you hit the ceiling of that talent, and he's just going to be dead weight. But definitely in terms of like character like evolution and progression for Isagi and also like Nagi and stuff, it was obviously a way better choice.
Yeah. And I mean, he does add a lot, I think, off the field, which I think is awesome. That
He's
like,
got cool hair.
yeah, he's got cool hair and he's a neat freak, and I think
I
that's
love
so
that, yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I like, what does he call him, Mr. Hassel?
Yeah.
Which is just the worst nickname, but also the best nickname at the same time.
Yeah. And I love that once they add a fourth player to the team, their locker room situation obviously becomes even more chaotic and just like throws Borrow through the loop because he's like, whose stinky socks are these and whose stuff's over here? Oh, so good.
He's like the angry team mom.
Yeah.
Basically. He's a tsundere through and through.
Yeah. Yeah, those two episodes for that match were probably the best of the series so far. So very excited to see it just keep getting better. And I think I'm excited for Bachida to come back into the fold. The last episode was mostly about him. And he's probably still my best boy. But yeah, Isagi and Nagi are both coming pretty close behind now.
It's nice in that they all have their own traits that make you sort of like care about their stories in different ways. Like you can like make memes from them and their personality and stuff, but they really all have. It isn't just a bunch of dudes that have like the very, very similar like background stories and shit. I feel like I can, relate to each character in different ways, which is rather rare, especially with an ensemble as large as this.
Yeah, and thanks to, the whole configuration of constantly changing who are your allies, who are your enemies, who you don't see for a few episodes, you really get to like rotate in new characters and dig into their personalities in different ways and how they relate to the established cast.
That cycling also adds what I think what I believe is what separates it from tons of sports anime in particular and really elevates it above a lot of them is the matches all matter, but you honestly don't know if Isagi's going to win or lose because it's not win or go home every single time, because if it was that, you knew Isagi would win every single time. It was just how is he going to win? With the ability to lose and keep going, it really kind of adds that just enough mystery on each match that it keeps your interest the whole time. Because a lot of sports anime, it's just you win and advance into nationals or, your prefecture tournament or whatever, or you go home. And that's basically it. So the main character is always going to win because the show has to keep going. But Blue Lock doesn't do that. So like there were definitely parts of that last match where I was like, they're gonna lose again.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna probably lose Nagi, and I was like, that's gonna be weird because it's gonna be Isagi and Baru together, and then they're gonna have to figure out how to make that shit work.
Yeah. And then even when they do win, you're like, who are they gonna pick?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a lot of really smart concepts to make you keep guessing and keep being engaged. And yeah, the fact that not only is it a sports show, but it's a survival game show, which is, even more guaranteed that the main character has to win every time normally, is normally it's, an elimination. So the fact that they managed to balance those two things where the expectation is almost always for the protagonist to win and still make it work so that the protagonist periodically loses. It's a great formula.
They also do a really interesting thing where even when Isagi's team wins, sometimes it feels like a loss because of what he experiences during the match, and he's like, I'm so far behind these other people.
Yeah.
So that the win also isn't always because of him. Like, as he gets better, it does ascend into that territory. Like, he really becomes as Charles Barkley puts it, the driver of the bus. But there were definitely times where they were winning, but Isagi was more of a, in the right place at the right time situation. And then in terms of raw talent, it's clear that he's not enough to carry a team. So even when they win, it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's because Isagi is the main character and so good. So it kind of opens up avenues for character exploration in that as well, since it's a team sport, but also, very individualistic in talent. So it's not always, we won because I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good and enjoyable. I'm interested to see how they keep going, because I mean, Isagi's first match when it was him and It was him and Nagi and Bachira versus like those fucking gods.
Yeah.
It will
now
be
Bachira's on the god team. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now what? Have they explained? I might have missed it. Have they explained like how this round ends, or like how like what will be the next part of it?
I don't remember.
I want to say they did right in the very start of explaining the concept,
Yeah, probably.
but since Isagi hasn't gotten there, they haven't really expanded upon it. Once, Bachira left, then it really became more of Isagi has to win just to not go
Yeah.
home.
That's true.
And he has to evolve so that he can get Bachira back. But yeah, I think I can't remember. Especially, it makes it a little bit hard to figure out exactly what's going on too, because the only match that you've seen it like get to a point where it feels like it could end was that one. So then
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, what are those dudes up to?
For sure. That's why I like the extra time, because it's like, okay, now at least the C-list characters can get their moment in the sun. Like, I think the most recent episode had that little skit at the end with Eamon and the two other guys, and he's like, finally, I don't have to be goalie. And they're like, so you're still going to be goalie, right? It was so good.
He's a guy I hope kind of gets some attention in the main story, even if it's just like a, whoa, who knew how good he was? And he just kind of pops up on one of the teams, because they clearly gave him, like, I thought, a little more character, like, attention outside of the main cast. But then when they were playing, he was always just in the goal, so he never got his whole, like, I'm evolving
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah, there's a couple of those too. Like the guy with like the gray hair that would just kind of like throw his body. Like I feel like that guy will become relevant again.
Oh, the one that did the headbutts and he was just a human missile.
Yeah, him.
Yeah, I hope to see him too, because I thought he was funny as well.
Yeah, I also do love how the like the losses for other characters are really good development moments too. Because like when when Nagi and Isagi just like shit all over Reo and like destroyed his mind. I love that Kunigami was like, "Hey, keep your head up, otherwise we're like really done for." It's like you got to watch them walk off the field. I thought that was such a cool moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it's maintaining its like level of quality as it goes. So I'm always
Yeah.
This is the one show I think of this season that I'm legitimately always excited and waiting for the new episode to come out. The others I'm like liking or enjoying, but for the most part it's like if they're on I'll watch them, but Blue Lock is the one that I'm constantly like, when is this fucking thing gonna be on?
Yeah. It's honestly super impressive for a 2-core show that had no break to have maintained the quality it has. Like it's very impressive.
Oh, I forgot to mention I also love this show's interpretation of crazy anime eyes, where they just go into like radio static.
Yeah. That was one thing I was getting confused about. I've heard other people mention it, is that originally Isagi's eye flames were blue, which makes sense for his like character design, and everyone else's, color coordinated. But, like the last couple matches, his eye flames have been green, and like I don't know what that's about. It feels
Super
like
Saiyan 2.
yeah, I guess so. It could be. I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't fit with his design as well as blue did.
Green lock now.
Yeah, right. Like what? Can't wait till he goes red lock on these dudes.
Lavender Lock. Kestrel, is there anything else you wanted to pop in about the show?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, so brave.
I wasn't gonna say it, but he got it.
All right, we can shift then.
Yeah,
If we want to keep going,
stop coming up with good episode titles. I don't know which one to pick now. We've got like
none
all
are
in the
great
running.
yet. I'm waiting.
They're all pretty good. They're better than my
Yeah.
usuals. So
I'm ready to shift on. I want to talk about Vinland Saga.
Yes. Peak land.
yeah.
Farmland.
Show I'm
Harvest.
actually watching. Revenge.
Harvest Moon Viking Edition.
I just want to get this out here right away. I'm sending in my apology letter. This is like I'm Gintoki at the front of the conference room apologizing to the media. I really like the Vinland Saga season 2 opening and ending themes.
Yeah. I don't know what DJ was all on about.
I like the
I like-
opening as well. I don't listen to the ending most of the time. I don't like that one quite as much, but I like the opening a lot. I know I gel with what you said, Kestrel, probably is sort of the general opinion of that. It fits the flow of the show, but it's just not what people would have expected, I suppose.
Mhm.
But I think it's good.
Yeah. We definitely gave it a hard time in the beginning of the season talk, but I was just a naive little Viking boy.
Yep, exactly.
I've learned that revenge is not the answer.
All right.
That's basically it. It's like I feel like if people don't get what those songs are talking about, then they do not know the themes of the show
Yeah.
Yeah.
and how well those songs fit. But
Yeah, it's the songs, the show, the character, they're all evolving down the same trajectory. And if you got into it for cool Viking action, then maybe it's not for you anymore, but that was never the point. And if you thought that the point was for the protagonist to just be a murdering minion all the time, then it probably was never the show for you.
Half of the people watching Vinland Saga are just Thorkell. And they're all just like,
yeah,
more.
I'm bored. Why am I not killing people?
Yeah, he's having such a bad time this season.
Yeah, I want to see Thorkell's live reactions to Vinland Saga season 2.
My reaction to that information, just like stone cold face.
Oh god, he'd be so mad. He'd be so mad. He'd be mad and disappointed. He'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Why have you become this?
Damn. Well, this is a show you can actually talk about, Kate, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is the first time. The first season was the first time that the four of us originally had ever watched the same show, and now that Bran is on board, the second season is the first time that all five of us are up to date on the same show.
Wow.
Oh, miracle.
Crazy.
Well, I want to hear what Kate thinks about it now.
What do I think? I think it's
Yeah,
great.
go.
Well, the animation hasn't really had a real chance to shine, and there's been some. You know what? One of the episodes didn't look so great. Last episode looked fine. I can't remember what was the episode. It was episode I don't know. A couple episodes ago, it was like, No, it's great. The pacing's perfect. The adaptation is still smooth. They're still adding good little bits that weren't in the manga to flesh out things like Einer's backstory at the beginning of the season, and just everything else has been on point. Like, so on point that I forgot about a thing. I went back, I looked at it, I said, holy crap. This is all pretty much spot on. They have made a few changes. Einer is like way more intense in the anime than
Yeah.
the manga.
His character seems to be like the thing that is the most different. And it's not a bad thing. It's just like he is like way on all the time.
He is so on all the time. Like in the manga, he was just kind of like, I'm here, I'm a good dude, here I am. And the anime, he's so fucking intense.
Like Kramer, he's just like a crackhead.
Yeah, he's always like 100% at all times. It's like, dude, you need to calm the fuck down. Like even Thorfinn's just like, dude, why you just need to calm down. And like he has to keep reminded that he is a slave. Like
Yeah, I feel like he walks around like he doesn't remember that he's
he's like so into like he's like, I have a farm, I'm gonna plow this field, this is great, and then buy myself back, and that's great. And I'm like, and then do what? Like, which seems to be Thorfinn's problem. He's like, I don't have a goal in my life.
Right.
And yeah.
He needs to be the active character for the past of Thorfinn to get back into the series and his life.
It's true.
The other funny change from the manga is that in the manga we got Thorfinn's inner monologue during some of this stuff, and he is just a cipher in the anime. Like, we don't hear anything going on in his head. We have no idea what's going on. Like, during
Elevator
his
music.
yeah, it's just and like in the manga, like I went back and I was like, oh yeah, he had thoughts about like Snake when Snake lunged at him.
Mm.
And the anime, like the only hint of that in the anime was like showing like Ashlad like reflecting in his eyes when that happened. But no inner monologue whatsoever. So that's an interesting change. Interesting choice.
That is a neat decision because I feel like there was some other show recently I watched where they did that. They kind of like made the protagonist they made it like more of a third person omniscient story than following that specific character. And I had people watching the second season at the beginning and they were like, wait, so is this Einar guy like the main character now? And I'm like, no, not really, but just like, wait, like Thorfinn will be there, and he is there, but yeah, he's not the active role yet.
He's there, but he's not all there.
Yeah. But I do agree. I think the show has looked really good so far, but it hasn't had the chance to really show off. There was like that nightmare sequence when Thorfinn's, he has his recurring nightmares killing Vikings and innocent people and stuff, and like those were really good cuts. But there's definitely some spotty shots of like in betweens, and like there's those like further back profiles when like they're just far enough that they don't even bother animating the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot like that's a consistent part of the production so far.
Yeah.
It's almost like feels like it's part of like the art direction, but I think overall though it looks good for how like detailed and like blocky the characters look, because just like I mean the manga's artwork is so heavily detailed that I think it's doing a good enough job with like character expressions when they're close up. But yeah, I also agree that the pacing's been great.
I was laughing. I brought this up to another group of people I was talking to. I was like, I put up a picture of Thorfinn and Einar standing there and I'm like, guess the ages of these two characters to somebody else, and they're like, and yeah, these are the most grizzled late teens characters in the fucking universe. They are just all angles.
Is Thorfinn like 16 right now ish, or do we even know what his age is?
Like 16 or 17.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be documented.
Yeah,
I'm still not used to him in a goatee.
He goes through many transformations, as does Canute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Canute had a crazy glow up. The twink death, as they call it.
Puberty hit him hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bearded Thorfinn doesn't last, which makes me kind of sad. He actually, I thought that was a good look for him.
He's 19 here.
Really? Okay.
Oh wait, he's 19 after the time skip. We haven't hit the time skip yet.
No,
We've
he's
only
19 at the beginning of the slave arc.
Really?
Yep.
That's not what I read. I read that he was like
He ranged 16 to 18 during most of the first season. He's 19 right now. 22 later.
Okay.
When the episode with that was focusing on like the war and Canute came up, were any of you guys like, yeah, you go get that Canute? I was on his side the whole time. I was like, man, look at you. So proud of you. Even though later I was like, this dude's a war criminal. But the whole
Yeah.
time I was like, yeah, you show them who's boss.
He's our war criminal.
Yeah,
He's like it's funny because I feel like where he is in the story right now, it's not earned, and I kind of felt that way in the manga too. It's like because the last time we saw him, he was like could barely lift a sword and was like exhausted by the fact that his father like perished like there, and he was just like yeah,
Guess I'm king now.
guess I'm king. Yeah, he was kind of like like huffy and not really like not fully, and then like we rejoin him and he's like it's been a year and he's just like burn this place to the ground. It's like, dude.
I think it's cool because like it shows like how much he had to change to like basically stay alive. Like if he wanted to like reach his ideals and stuff, he was like, okay, I need to like take on all this stuff that Escalade tried to drill into my brain, but I was too afraid to do. But at the same time, it is sad because it's very much a loss of innocence, and he is not the same character he was when we first met him. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do love that it was just like like interjected between the farmland stuff, and you're like, okay, so that's going on.
Yeah.
All right, now let's I guess go back and till some wheat.
I know the hard cut between we're doing this and then Canute like I will burn your people to the ground, put those guys' heads on pikes, and then it comes back and it's like we need a horse.
Yeah, I love
Like,
the
that
episode
hard
preview.
Yeah, it's an interesting like juxtaposition and role reversal that the two of them go through between season 1 and season 2 because the Thorfinn is the warrior, the killer, the hardened character, and Knut is the weakling and the pacifist and the sweetheart. And then the change of season, Thorfinn becomes the pacifist, the passive character, just no ambition, and Knut has all the ambition, becomes the warrior, becomes the killer. And as time goes on, you get to see both of them grow and become more balanced within themselves and kind of balance each other and work for each other in ways that are interesting and kind of rewarding. So I really like those two characters and their evolutions throughout the series are major highlights.
Yeah, Vinland Saga is it is in the same gun boat of like war is bad, but people are just looking at going Vikings are cool. It's like
Cool
the
Vikings.
show is literally like, hey, war's bad. Thorfinn has horrible post traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, it has a lot of really like I think well developed ways of talking about the idea of like baptism by battlefield and how some people like it makes you a man going out there and killing, and then you have like the last episode where it's like no, it turns you into a monster. And some people will cherish that and value that as like a showing of your virility and things like that, but then also it does not invalidate the other ways of living and showing your value in that way as well, especially for a like a culture that, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's stereotypically shown as like Vikings were battle, and men battled and plundered and everything like that. In Vinland Saga delves into like the consequences of that in ways that are very interesting and showing you that there are other ways that they can live their lives and do that provide value and make them developed in men, so to speak, without having to have killed a shitload of people to do it.
Yeah, people tend to forget like the whole reason that like the Vikings were out there pillaging and raiding anyway was because the Nordic countries weren't exactly like the beautiful rolling fertile farmland and stuff, and there's a lot of Viking blood in England and Ireland and places where they settled that had farmland because inevitably that was all they really wanted was like fertile land in which to grow crops.
That's Vinland. That's why Vinland is the thing.
Yep, that's the whole point. It's like, what is the end goal of this? It is not for death and glory and battle. It is, survival and maybe better future for your children.
And they show that dynamic well with the master of the farm. I can't remember his name.
Ketel.
Yeah, Cadel the Iron Fist and his son, where age kind of changes you in that way, or it can, and it's especially because his son is also like, I want to go on the battlefield because that's how I'm gonna prove my manhood, but he's a quote unquote coward. And I guess for his one son, it's a little bit harder to like reconcile that as a viewer, because not only is he a coward, but he is like an asshole coward at the same time. But I definitely don't think Ketel, like, coward's not the right word depending on whatever the true context of his like legend is, so to speak. It just seems like he is like a sensitive, kind, empathetic man.
Yeah.
He is deeply insecure.
Yeah. He's a kind-hearted man in a world that does not accept kind-hearted men.
Yeah. So he had to like make all this shit up, and then the ending of the last episode, like basically the last like 5 or 10 minutes, I was just completely like engulfed in, because it's like everyone was so keen on, well, we're just gonna have to fucking kill these kids or whatever.
Both arms. That'll do. Yeah, I feel like the Ketel's family is like a very good, just like test for the whole theming of the show, because Ketel himself is, sort of a mirror, the opposite side of what Thor's was. So Thorfinn's dad, in that like you just said, Kess, it's like a good man in a world that won't allow you to be just like a good, nice person. And the difference is that Ketel uses these like legends of him to like as a facade to like gain wealth and notoriety, and it's because he had to survive, whereas Thor's use his strength because he did fight, but he uses it to pacify in a way, and like he tried to like instill that you can be strong to Thorfinn without like needing to kill people. And I don't
or
know,
enslave people.
Yeah, no,
which
exactly.
is a huge thing. Like Thor's specifically did not keep slaves.
Yeah.
And meanwhile Ketel's like, yeah, I treat my slaves. It's the whole like, oh, you're the kind slave master. You're still a slave master.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really need to have slaves. He's got plenty of retainers. And, like, peasants working on his land. It's like, okay, dude, you keep telling yourself you're a kind, good man.
Yeah, and you can see how it messes him up, too, when his son comes back, and he's like a warmongering, crazy dude, and I think that's a good mirror as well for the Thorfinn thing, because, like, that's what Thor's was trying to prevent Thorfinn from becoming. He's like, I don't want you to become this, and I think I read somewhere that like that was a common thing in this culture, that at some point there's like a power dynamic shift because the young bucks become bloodthirsty and powerful enough that like they can like overthrow their father in a way, and like that fear is like legitimate. But it's so fascinating the way they explore the power of violence in this show. It's so
I mean, the dude has an ear necklace.
Yeah. What is this, jerky? I was literally eating beef jerky while watching that episode.
Oh no!
You just looked down. It was an
Yeah.
like a scene out of JoJo.
I think I'm done. Yeah.
Just becomes ears.
The menacing things just start floating around me.
Yeah, it is interesting how, he was kind of presented as the same situation as Thor's initially, of like, this legendary warrior who gave it all up and became a pacifist, and you'd never guess that he killed all these people. But then the truth is revealed that no, that was all a front. Yeah, they do a really good job of just exploring what every personality type that certainly did exist during this time. You just never hear about, how they survive in a time like that where society wants you to be a murderer so much that
Yeah.
anything else that steers away from that is just unacceptable, and you really have to struggle. And then, yeah, you have these characters who evolve in one direction or the other to realize that, either their murdering was a terrible thing and exactly the opposite of, what their father they were trying to avenge would want from them, or that they have to do it to survive and maintain power and pacify the nation and keep it from tearing itself apart, and everything in between. And yeah, characters that are murderers but hate it and give it up and try to make the world a better place, and then those who kind of toe the line where they, will keep slaves even though they have a good heart and will beat children if they need to, if they feel like they need to. Um, and then yeah, you have like your warmongers, your cowards who want to be warmongers. Yeah, just every single possible personality type.
Yeah, the thing you said about towing the line, I really like that despite how extreme sometimes the sides are that they're representing, you'll have a character like Pater where he's very logical and he can see that like there is like utility in not killing these kids.
Yeah.
And like he does that to appease his master, who he knows is probably like non-confrontational. He's like, okay, just make them work for it. But he also knows that he has to appease his son, who will like not be satisfied if these kids get away like without a scratch on them. So he's like, but they still get flogged. So yeah, you get every perspective of it, and it's really, really good.
All right, what's next?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I think we've talked about all the shows that I've watched, so it's really kind of more up to you guys at this point in terms of things you would like to cover, or
That's not
stuff
how it
you've
works.
stuff
What
you've
you want us to talk about.
All right. In that case, I was hoping I want right, Brian, you were watching it. I kind of want to hear about the Handyman show,
Yeah.
and I hope it's a guy with just like a screwdriver and everyone's freaking out about it.
So yeah, to an extent. I'm watching this with a buddy of mine because we'll like watch a show or two per season together. And
Sorry, is this buddy your daddy by any chance?
he's not, unfortunately. Yeah. He's not a handyman either. But isekai, not my cup of tea normally, but the show started off as like, just like small skits sort of. And there's an appeal to that. There wasn't really besides Buddy Daddies, there's not a lot of comedy elements going on this season for me. So it was a nice, just like kind of like lighthearted thing. And it is exactly that. It's like this dude who's a handyman. He's got his wrenches and his screwdrivers and his lockpicks. Just gets dropped into a fantasy world, and he joins up with like a team of like an old mage who can't remember his spells, and like a girl in tanky body armor, and like a little fairy girl. And the first couple episodes I enjoyed because they were like skits, and like you'd get other random side characters that are like really wacky one-off things. But then like halfway through, they kind of interconnected all the characters to like one very dramatic plot line. And I thought the show kind of started to lose steam when it was no longer made it as shorts, because I thought the energy of that was really the appeal of it. And it got like, I don't know, the dramatic was a little sappy, and there wasn't enough time or energy spent to like really uh, flesh out these characters. Like they gave them moments and they tried to, but like, I don't know, the more serious arc that like they just went through didn't really do it for me. So I'm hoping they go back to the more just like everyday, like, oh, how is he going to like unlock this booby trap chest, or like, how is he going to like barter selling this Allen wrench that they don't even know how to price in this world. Um, yeah, it's a show that like I liked its concept originally, and it started going away from it. So I hope it kind of returns back to its wheelhouse because it's enjoyable enough uh comedy when it wants to be.
Yeah, this is one of those ones I had my interest to for a little bit, just because I never ended up watching it, but I'm like I was just constantly thinking about like anime reactions to a guy just like having basic tools that we have now, or like slightly more intense ones, like he just happens to be transported in another world with like a Dremel tool.
Yeah, it's a little more straightforward to like it's very simple. Like he'll just like yeah, fix little things or like undo, typical fantasy like D&D type situations with yeah, just like his handyman toolkit, and everyone's like, "Oh, cool. Is that like something you do as like a hero in the other world?" He's like, "Nah, it's just my day job. I'm just like a normal dude."
He's like, no, this gets me minimum fucking wage.
Yeah, no, exactly. He was like, "I don't know, man. Back in the world, I was nobody. I was like grinding." But yeah, there's some charm to the show. I just really hope they go back to what it started out as, cuz yeah, definitely started to lose some steam when it got dramatic.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like a show that would benefit from necessarily from being dramatic.
No.
Like maybe a teardrop or so occasionally, just for the sake of character like development enough to keep a story going, but I
Yeah.
would see that as almost like 95% comedy.
Yeah, and that's a thing which is weird about it too, is that, like I said, one of the main characters is like an old mage who like keeps forgetting his shit, and they kind of gave his backstory and resolved that part of him in this arc. So now, if they go back to just like the comedy routine, I'm just wondering how he's even going to be like a funny character anymore because like his whole shtick is gone. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. And they're gonna probably keep adding more characters. I like all the side characters. They're like goofy, like alternate takes on like what you'd expect for characters. Like there's the demon king of the world, like was beaten by the old king, and now he's just kind of like working with the king and pretending to be like a hero. Just like other like weird inverses of character tropes, but yeah, it's all right. I hope it gets back on track. Otherwise, it probably won't fare so well by the end of the season.
Gotcha. Um, how about we go from we'll just go from handyman to campfire cooking.
Oh
That is a
yeah.
good transition, yeah. Yeah, very little to say about this, which is unfortunate because I review it every week. Yeah,
You mean you're not putting 1,000+ words down every week?
not the show, no. Yeah, it's basically, well, I would say that it's just what the title says, except it's not really that because, uh, basically it's just a dude who gets isekai'd, and his power is that he can access like an online Japanese grocery store, and just get shit from normal Japan grocery stores out of thin air, uh, and he gets like a little gas or electric stove top thing, portable thing. So he doesn't actually cook on a campfire almost ever. Um, and it's just that, and he makes like simple little Japanese comfort food, and sometimes doesn't even cook and just like gets packaged pastries and stuff. Um, and it's pretty much just him cooking or otherwise giving food to his pet giant Fenrir wolf, and now a cute little slime. Um, and that's kind of it, actually. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. it's fine. It's
I'm oddly disappointed that after you said sometimes he doesn't even cook. I'm like, but it's in the title.
yeah, like he there's a goddess, of course, and she was just like watching him because she was the one who gave this wolf like superpowers beyond just being really strong, and so she's like, hey, those like on and melon pon, all those packaged sweetbreads look really good, so I'll give you magic powers if you give me a tribute of those every week. So he's like, okay, cool. They cost me like a few yen. I don't even have to make anything. I'll just put that in my online grocery and get superpowers. That's all I have to do. So some episodes he doesn't cook anything. There's almost never a campfire. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Even the very little that the title implies, even that doesn't always happen.
This show blows.
At least they can't take away the another world part of it, right?
He is in another world, although some of the food is not. Pretty much all of the like condiments and general recipes are just like normal Japanese recipes. But usually he'll use meat from like orcs in place of big meat, or like some sort of legendary bird creature for poultry meals, stuff like that. That's about it.
We got to get that Dungeon Meshi show out so that we can get the hardest core monster recipes that you can possibly cook.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Same.
Is that like is that another isekai with cooking, but like
No.
real cooking? Or what is this?
It is hardcore fantasy. Straight D&D.
Not isekai.
Not isekai in the
It's pure
slightest.
fantasy, which is like, unheard of nowadays. Just like straight fantasy.
Straight fantasy with like D&D character tropes. It's like amazing.
Yeah, that's
who was animating that one? Was that like Trigger or Shaft or like some?
Yeah, it's Trigger.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's interesting. That does not seem like their type of show, but we'll see.
Yeah, when they do adaptations, they're usually a lot less that kind of Trigger identity.
Yeah, it's probably not Imaishi.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not gonna be an Imaishi show. No.
Yeah.
Although, like, I wouldn't have expected Cyberpunk to work as well as it did, because usually his stuff is very comedic, and that had almost none of that. He was still able to like kind of inject his frenetic energy and make it successful.
Yeah. I guess the lesson here is don't watch campfire cooking. Wait for Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. Like it makes me hungry every Tuesday, so it's working. Yeah.
That would go in my category of like eat lunch while watching this shows.
Right. Yeah, I watch half an hour of him cooking all these delicious meals, and then I write for however it doesn't take me that long because I don't have shit to say about it. But I write for like half an hour about him cooking all these delicious meals.
I was gonna say you write about as much as he cooks.
Yeah, right.
You write his recipes down. You're like, all right, call it a day.
But yeah, it all makes me very hungry because it's always before I eat. But yeah, like the recipes are not very complicated. The detail they go into about him making the food, not very complicated. Is there's almost never any other human characters in the show. So almost all of the commentary we get is from the giant wolf, which is kind of entertaining. But even his commentary isn't like as in depth as your normal like food anime. He's just like, yes, very good. Yeah, wow, thanks, Fel. Yeah, whatever, it's fine. If you want some food porn and low stakes, no pressure, it's fun.
Alrighty. Let's see. What are we running on for time? I haven't been looking.
Late.
Just about 2. About 2 hours.
Okay. Well, how about we cover since two of you are watching it, talk a little bit about My Hero, and then we can go into some recommendations if anything happens. I'm
Wait,
interested to see.
we have a comment from DJ who
Oh,
was who was pondering our potential titles for the episode, and he says, "I'd be down to body slam Haruhi."
Yes, well done.
Mm-hmm.
And he lands the dismount. Excellent.
All right, you may continue now.
Yeah,
Cass,
it
would you
looks like
rather
it's good now, or
Cass,
again?
would you rather talk about My Hero or Bungo? Because they're about at the same spot.
Yeah, I'll just mention that, yeah, My Hero has been much better this season than last season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is everything that last season was building up to finally actually happening, and very eventful all season long. And you know, it's clearly just in that situation where, like, all right, we need to pump out exactly 25 episodes every season.
Yeah.
So even though the end of this episode ends with, uh, now we begin the final act, it's still just the next episode, the next week. So
Yeah.
obvious season break point, but we didn't get a season break. So we've got like the first, I don't know, 5 episodes of the final act of My Hero Academia before we go on break.
Yeah. Final act is like a very loose term too, because like it's probably gonna take at least 2 more seasons worth of material, maybe. Well,
I mean, the manga's
if
still
they're
going, right?
yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
and like yeah, and they're like just really getting the final battle going. So I
Yeah.
think we're still far off.
Yeah, it's
But
shown, and that's how it goes.
but yeah, it does feel very like I don't know. Yeah, they are doing it by the books, very formulaic. But I agree, it's about as good as it's ever been, and it's nice that they're not also making a movie. Which is probably why it's
Yeah.
doing so well. And
Yeah, and we don't have any like bullshit filler episodes. Like, it would be the time to add it with bullshit filler episodes because
yeah,
that was an obvious stopping point. So they could have easily like shoved something in there to be like, okay, now we actually end the season on this good stopping point. Um, so you know, I'll take just good content with kind of an awkward stopping point over having to sit through more of that shit
yeah, and
or just dragging it out. Yeah,
despondent mercenary Deku is definitely best Deku.
yeah,
I do
yeah.
like
Because
him
Deku
in
has
his
been,
current form.
yeah, Deku has been such an uninteresting protagonist for so much of the series, especially next to people like Todoroki.
Yeah.
So yeah, seeing this side is a great change of pace.
Yeah, I would say the Todoroki family drama is like the most interesting part of this show for the last couple, like besides like the main plot point, I guess. It's like the most interesting other thing going on.
Definitely. Yeah, and like I think My Hero has, maybe it'll get better, probably not. I think it peaked at like middle of season 3, the big like All Might versus All for One throwdown.
Yeah.
But I never like, you know, now where the story has gone, there's obviously a good reason that All for One didn't die.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced that it's a good thing that All Might didn't die, because he's been, you know, basically completely passive for like the entire series since then. He's starting to like become a support item in this
Yeah.
latest arc.
It's like the boss when he joins your party, you know?
Exactly. But even the little bit he like contributes as a support character, given the nature of One for All that we're exploring very deeply now,
Mhm.
still seems like he could have been just as effective if he had died there. And I
Yeah.
feel like that would have been, you know, a much better climax to that point in the series if someone died. Like, they made such a big deal about All Might, like, this is the end of All Might. But now he's just a skinny dude who hangs out in like Deku's basement or whatever. Like, nothing really happened because of it. It just meant that Endeavor had to like step up.
Yeah. I totally agree because that middle part of season 3, the All Might fight was my favorite part of both the manga and the anime. And I think certain parts of the manga hit other like almost peaked for me. Like parts of uh the overhaul fight and parts of Shimura's background were like really good in the manga, but like I think they suffered a bit during the anime. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think Horikoshi for a long time has just been like afraid to make drastic changes like that. Like there were people when it was like teased that Bakugo was like maybe gonna die in the earlier half of this season. Like when that happened in the manga, people like freaked the hell out. Like fandoms were like, they're like, no, how are we gonna make Bakugo and Deku like end up together if this happens? So like, yeah, I think just been like a fear for Horikoshi to do that, and like you could tell he's kind of backed down on a lot of that because even this last arc was supposed to be like the big turning point. It's like, oh, Hero Society's been overthrown, and there was only like they mentioned like some heroes dying and stuff, but of like the cast of heroes we know, it's only like really one maybe quote unquote major death, and it wasn't
Yeah.
even like that major of a character, and it was off screen sort of. Um, yeah, and it's interesting because from here on out, I feel like the show will be very divisive because it like will feel like it's hurtling towards the end, and then it'll like pull back again and like hurtle towards the end, pull back again. And it's like, oh, they might like kill someone here or there, or like almost do it again and not. The it's funny because like reading it right now, the reactions are all over the place. Some people are like, no, he still got it. And some people are like, no, this like has not been good since blah blah blah, blah way back when. So um yeah, I feel like My Hero's in a very interesting spot right now.
And that's a very typical, like especially Weekly Shonen Jump, just manga in general paradigm, where they're like, you've got to hit, keep it going. I don't care how, keep it going. But
Yeah.
they're like, I announced we're in the final act, so I got to keep making it seem like I'm about to end it, but then find some excuse to not end it. So
Yeah.
yeah, not at all surprised that that's the formula that it's following.
Yeah. And it's
And
crazy because like that's how it is for almost all the big hitters in Jump right now. Like JJK is rumored to end within like 2 years because like Akutami like wants to end it,
Mhm.
and like One Piece rumored to end eventually, like
Yeah, I
rumored
mean,
final arc.
I think Oda gets to do what he wants with One Piece. I think he's
Yeah,
just really
yeah,
bad
he's
at telling how
untouchable.
long it takes him to get through a story.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah, no
he's
one's
always
telling
said,
Oda when to stop.
yeah, exactly.
no,
None of these editors who were born after One Piece started are telling Oda what to do.
no, not at all.
And yeah, they he's always said like One Piece will be 5 years more. Like
Mm-hmm. A
when it
million
started,
times.
it was gonna run for 5 years. Right now, there's gonna be 5 more years. He just has a really bad perception of how long it takes him to tell a story. But he knows what he needs to do, just not how long it'll take to get there.
Yeah,
And yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like it's being drawn out. Feels like it's what he intends. There's just a lot to tell.
yeah. And the thing with My Hero compared to One Piece is like My Hero is definitely an ensemble thing, and you feel that as the manga approaches its end. It's like, yeah, we gotta like bring back these characters you remember for the big final battle. And it's like, well, yeah, One Piece is that, but like double or triple or quadruple
Yeah,
that. So like,
there are
it's
a
gonna be
thousand
a
characters.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you said about like the deaths, like yeah, it's nice to finally see that he's willing to kill some characters off. But yeah, a couple of things about that. Like All Might, it feels like from episode one, All Might was set up as the mentor who's going to have a dramatic death.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's going to be the catalyst for the protagonist's big change.
Yeah. That
And that
he has a
happened.
mortal injury and this and
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Red flag after
Exactly.
red flag.
And I will pass my powers down to you. You will carry it on for the next generation. And don't worry, those who are dead and had this power will still support you from inside. Uh,
Yeah.
and now I'll have this big dramatic final battle where I'll put all of my strength into it, and it'll be the end of my career. But I'm still just gonna hang out. Actually, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
It's just wild
Cool.
because there's like an aura version of All Might within Deku. So
Yeah, he's already
man,
there.
man, you really couldn't just like
Come
pick.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what you were saying too, it made me think about One Piece. Like, obviously One Piece is very limited, very selective about killing characters off.
Yeah.
And
Dude, it took me years to realize that they didn't actually kill the bird guy in Alabasta.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
The Will
wait.
of P, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, he
Yeah.
didn't die? Kidding
Yeah,
me?
that was fucking stupid. There are a lot of those. But even like when they finally do, and it's like, huge dramatic moment, they actually killed off like, the most popular character
Yeah.
and the All Might character at the same time. Like, wow, such a commitment, Oda. And like, yeah, that's true, and it was great, and it was contributed a lot to the story. But it's also like the greatest, most terrible war ever fought in world history. 2 people died.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is just a problem with shonen as a genre, kind of. But
Yeah, I think these 2 series, and One Piece especially, like, they're worse than most. Like,
that's
your
true. I
Demon
mean,
Slayers and
yeah,
JJKs and
JJK,
Chainsaw
Chainsaw
Mans.
Man. Yeah, that's true.
They're not afraid of killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But despite all the doom talking about shonen, My Hero is like at a high point right now, so it's definitely like as good as it's ever looked and felt for now, I'd say.
I think season 2 and 3 were still, that was like my honeymoon phase for My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
Since then, after last season, I almost didn't want to keep watching, but yeah, at least this season, it's consistently good. So that's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, let's see.
Do you want to say anything about Bungo Stray Dogs? It is still your top ranked series.
Just real quick, because we could wrap up, but
Mhm.
I am very happy that because we were really hyped on the flashback arc,
Right.
and I was like wondering how good the like current arc was going to be because I didn't remember at all what was going down. But I feel like it's shaping up to possibly be the like best arc of the series. I feel like they're really building on a lot of stuff, bringing in all the characters,
Right.
doing that whole like the enemy of my enemy is friend thing. Port Mafia's coming in, the Great Gatsby dude's coming back in. Like, it's really building like a really cool narrative, and I don't know, all the characters have been really strong that they've introduced, and I don't know, the show so constantly looks so good
Mhm.
and sounds so good, and the pacing has been great for how much shit they're throwing at you and like people they're introducing. So, yeah, I feel like it's firing on all cylinders, and this is a show that like it takes me a while to remember like why I'm watching it, but then like now that we're in the middle of the season, I'm like, oh yeah, this rocks. I'm really into this.
Yeah, I think it definitely does that trope of the the enemy of each season is then the ally for the next season over and over, where now you've got like all of the enemies from all of the previous seasons teaming up with the protagonists. And yeah, it's always cool to see, those powers on their sides, and they're not like the the boss joins your party. Like, they're still pretty badass.
Yeah.
They just keep introducing more insurmountable opponents to overcome. And just being really creative with all the powers, all the new powers they introduce.
Mhm.
The way that they tie it into the authors and their works of fiction and everything. Um, yeah, that's always been really interesting, and they keep doing a good job. Like you said, animation by Bones and the music by Taku Iwasaki have always been highlights, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a series that I think just progressively kind of gets better with each season. So yeah, really happy with it.
Like somehow I wouldn't imagine this show being the best Bones looking best Bones show of the season, but it looks better than My Hero like consistency wise.
Mhm.
But I mean that could also just be that like the like art direction and like style of the show is just very appealing to me comparatively. But
Yeah.
no, this looks so good. I have to do my research on the characters they've introduced. I haven't looked into their authors yet or how they're like kind of related to their powers or their personalities.
Yeah, it was always a fun thing because, like, the first season or two it was all Japanese, right?
Yeah.
So I was less familiar with them, and I've had kind of both sides of the experience where I have like seen things about these authors and their works after watching Bungo Stray Dogs that have made me go like, okay, yeah, that's why he turns into a tiger, shit like that.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, like when the when the Americans came in, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, these are all the books I read for high school, and
Yeah.
seeing how they incorporate those concepts that I was familiar with into their powers, I got to appreciate it from that side as well.
Yeah. No, yeah, this is shaping up to be maybe my favorite season if it sticks to landing, and
Yeah.
it kind of feels like it could be a final season. I don't really know where it is in terms of how much it's adapted, but
Yeah, I don't think the series is over. Let me see.
I feel like it's either like nearing its end or maybe recently did, but yeah, I feel
It
like
looks
they're
like it is still running for now.
okay. Nice. Yeah. No, it's been A1 stuff. I probably only have it above Vinland is because it like is that much of a surprise for me how good I feel like it is. Whereas like
Right.
Vinland's source material is like a top 5 manga for me. So it's like I'm really enjoying it, but I'm still waiting for it to get to the parts that like really made Farmland special.
That's probably kind of what went into my ranking last year, where I was like, is Bleach the best thing, or am I just so blown away that Bleach is this good that
Yeah.
it like propels it? Just that it's like Gap Moe.
No, yeah, that's
Like,
super fair. Yeah, Mo. Yeah. Yeah. I think that about covers Bungo.
Awesome. Well, I think that gives us the opportunity to wrap things up.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Did anyone have any recommendations or anything of that nature? I don't really have any at this point in time. So
I feel like
yeah,
every
go
well,
ahead.
real quick, I feel like everyone's already watching it, but when someone mentioned earlier, like just play the near games instead of watching the show, I would recommend people watch the new Last of Us show.
Fuck yeah.
Because as someone who hasn't played the games, I think it's really good. And from what I've heard of people who have played the games, they also think it's really good.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely give that a watch. It's the hot shit everyone's talking about right now.
Yeah. That was my recommendation last episode, but it continues to be amazing every single week. And I did play the game, and they're changing a bunch of stuff, and it's all for the better, and it all serves the medium of a TV series even better. So happy about everything about that show.
Yeah. I feel like Neil Druckmann made this game with the intention of
Right.
eventually making it a show or movie. So
Yeah, totally.
it's like a glove for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
big
and he
rec.
gets to not only like write some of the adaptation, but also direct it and show that yeah, he can do just as good of a job at that in TV as he did in the game.
Yeah. Bella Ramsey's an amazing little actress, so she's
Yes.
killing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Like, people talk about The Last of Us being such a downer, but like Ellie is so funny all the time.
Yeah,
So,
she's like the one like bright spot in this show of depressing
yeah,
post-apocalyptic shit.
yeah, so good. Yeah, that's definitely the best recommendation. I mentioned earlier, Monster, it's all out on Netflix. Doesn't have the dub, unfortunately. It's a good dub, but still a great series to watch. And it's been, unavailable for like 15 years. So
Oh, geez, yeah.
yeah, check that out. For new home video releases, I don't have a ton of like top priorities, but if you don't own Clannad yet, it just got a new full series re-release of both seasons. That is a little cheaper than the steelbook it got a year or two ago. So that is of course DJ's favorite anime of all time and top 10 for me. So always got to recommend that. And new Gorillaz album drops in a few hours, so if you're
Oh, shit, it does?
sort of thing, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh,
my,
shit.
My fancy vinyl box set just shipped.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw. I guess they were gonna have a movie, but then Netflix, because Netflix doesn't want us to have good
Oh.
things ever again.
Yeah.
And I don't even listen to the Gorillas, but I would watch a movie about them.
There was
But
supposed to be a movie like 20 times
I
over
know.
by
I was
now.
gonna say, for the past 20 years, there have been constant like TV shows and movies in levels of development hell that never went anywhere. So I'm not surprised, but it would still be nice if it ever happened. But probably won't.
Oh, man. Well, I know what I'm listening to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. One song. Wait. So Song Machine Part 1 is just.
Yeah,
There's never gonna be a part 2. Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back to it. I don't know.
And yeah, my friend said today that they might be already going back on tour in a few months. So looks like
Oh, wow.
Damon's really going into the whole this is going to be an actual band thing instead of taking
Yeah.
like 5-10 years off between albums and tours.
Yeah, I don't got no
He
problem
goes
with that.
through. He goes through phases.
Yeah, for sure. He's a very creative person. He's always being creative some way or another. He's
One of these songs has Stevie Nicks on it. Oh shit!
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
gonna be the
right.
hottest shit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm so excited.
all the singles they put out so far have just been absolute fucking all-time bangers. So I can't wait to hear the whole album. And I got to experience the world premiere of the new Beck song because they premiered it at the LA show.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
My recommendation is if you like monster hunting games, Wild Hearts is really good. Just maybe hold off on the PC version. The console version is really good. It fixes everything that I disliked about. Now I'm not a huge like Monster Hunter fan. I played World, and when I went back after playing World a bunch, 3 months later to try to play it again, I could not remember a single damn control for that game, and could not play it at all again because the controls were that esoteric. Wild Hearts plays like a normal ass video game, so you will not forget the controls between long play sessions. And it actually has a decent story, and the most interesting thing is that the Japanese voice cast and the English voice cast are one and the same. The voice actors are bilingual, and
Whoa.
yeah, so they and the I think they made the characters look like they're actors in the game to a degree, at least a little bit. So that was really cool. So it like people online were like complaining because they're like, "What's this weeb shit?" They left all these like words in Japanese, and they're like, "Oh, but their pronunciations are actually pretty good." And I'm like, "Well, I damn well hope they better be."
That's interesting. I would have never expected like a Monster Hunter clone to attempt to like do story stuff too.
Yeah, it does story stuff, and it actually does it really well. Like, Monster Hunter has barely any story whatsoever in those games.
It's not what you're there for.
No, and this actually has, like, a decent, like, story, but the more interesting thing is, like, the levels are actually interesting. There's, like, bits of lore scattered around, and, like, a lot of the areas are fought in just, like, ruins of towns. So you're fighting giant monsters in, like, old, like, Japanese villages, and there's just like a bunch of other little monsters and little pet things running around that you can like interact with, and you can somebody called it like Fortnite crossed with like Monster Hunter because you can build like equipment to attack the monsters with just on the fly. Like it just materializes. It's like hit button, throw down box, throw down enough boxes so it turns into a wall, and you use that to like jump off and do air attacks and shit. It's good, and I highly recommend it. I've been having a lot of fun.
I'll have to give that a go. I just hit like 200 hours on Rise because I'm trying to get to the end of Sunbreak, but that would be a good way to mix things up because I'm definitely burning out a bit.
There you go. Yeah, toss that in. People that have really enjoyed Monster Hunter games are actually really enjoying it. So it's a solid new Hunter game entry.
Good.
This season's anime also has a show where a character is voiced by the same person in Japanese and English.
Ooh, interesting. Which one's that?
Tomo-chan
Oh,
has one of the main characters is Sally Amaki, who was she was an idol in that 24/7 show franchise multimedia thing. And she's hosted like the Aniplex Online Fest and the Crunchyroll Awards and stuff. She's a lot of fun. What about you, Cain? Any recommendations?
Nah, not really. I would say I haven't watched Last of Us yet, but I really should. And then I was gonna recommend, if you haven't played it, Hi-Fi Rush is pretty fucking dope.
Oh yeah, that game looks really fun.
Yeah, it's got all sorts of nice self-shading animation and rhythm shit and cool characters and all that. Very surprise drop, good game, which normally surprise drop doesn't necessarily mean good. It means it could just be shit.
Yeah. A video game that like enjoys the fact that it's a video game.
Yeah, exactly. It knows it's a game and wants you to have a good time. Wow, weird. But that's about it. So,
All right. Well, you can find Fandom Post Radio wherever you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Alexa, Amazon Music, fandompost.com. And you can find us on social media, follow us, get in contact with us, share our stuff, whatever. We are on Twitter and Facebook at Fandom Post Radio. You can also get in contact with us via email, fandompostradio@gmail.com. If you have thoughts or things we should talk about, send them our way, but realistically, we'll probably just go another month without recording, and then it'll be the end of the season, so whatever. You can find me on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma and writing uninspired reviews about an uninspired isekai cooking show every week.
where he doesn't even cook.
he mostly cooks. Never on a campfire. Sometimes he doesn't cook, it's true.
That's rough. Find me at Hellshake Brando on all my socials, basically. And I haven't really done much besides write weekly Mashal reviews. So if you're reading that, check them out.
Kate, how about you?
I'm on the socials at Sonic Bug. I have not been posting much on the socials, but you can find me. I'm around on the internet.
Hey, you're doing reviews this season.
I am reviewing To Your Eternity still, and I am reviewing Vinland Saga Season 2. And other random things that come out. Not anime, but like books and stuff. Yeah. I occasionally repost things.
And you're mostly keeping up on them?
I am mostly keeping up on them. I'm a little bit behind on To Your Eternity, but I am absolutely up to date on Vinland Saga Season 2. Shocking, I know.
Excellent.
Hopefully that continues to the end.
Yeah, this is my New Year's resolution, is to like try to get my reviews done. And play less video games, that's not happening.
As you recommend Wild Hearts.
Yep. I had grand aspirations last weekend to get a bunch of other things done. None of that happened.
And we still have exclusive license on Cain until he goes into public domain, I believe.
Pretty much. Except I'm going to be like Disney. I'm going to just keep trying to get the rules changed so it never happens.
Lobbying it, yeah.
Yep, I'm going to keep lobbying over and over again with all of my insane riches I have and old shitty Blu-rays.
Make sure to buy your Canes low and then hold on.
Cool.
Yeah, excellent. Well, as always, thank you everyone for listening. Subscribe where you can. Always appreciate comments and things like that. But until next time, enjoy the season, enjoy the games, and I want to say enjoy the Last of Us show, but it sounds like it's one of those ones that you enjoyed even though it's incredibly sad.
It is fun. It is also fun. It's a great memory.
Excellent. Adios.
See you
Later.
Ah.